Hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on integrated composable commerce demystified, boosting agility and innovation in e-commerce. I'm Swapnil Nayan, product marketing manager for HCL Commerce at HCL Software, and I'm super excited to be here with you all today. So today's agenda includes several key topics. We'll be covering the fundamentals of composable commerce to begin with. Then we'll move on to discuss the benefits and trends that is shaping this space. We'll also cover how integrated composable commerce is driving innovation. And finally, we'll wrap up by exploring the best practices for successful implementation of an integrated composable commerce solution. So with that, let me introduce you to our panelists for today. First, we have with us Karie Daudt, the Director of Product Management for e-commerce at HCL Software. She has over 20 years of rich experience in digital commerce transformation across B2B, B2C, and B2B2C. Karie is truly a veteran in this field. Next, we are joined by Shruti Jadhav, Vice President and Principal Analyst for Customer Experience and MarTech at Quadrant Knowledge Solutions. Shruti brings with her over a decade of experience in market research and has a proven track record of helping organizations navigate the complexity of CX and MarTech landscape. We are also joined today by Ganesh Sakhare. He is a research analyst specializing in customer experience at Quadrant Knowledge Solutions. So before we get started, I'd just like to inform you that if you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A chat window. Our panelists will try to answer as many of them as possible during the Q&A session at the end. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Shruti to kick off the session.
Thanks for the introduction, Swapnil. Talking about composable commerce specifically, we've seen in the past few years, I think we've witnessed significant changes in how businesses are approaching their digital commerce architectures, and we've largely seen two main types: monolithic and microservices architecture. And however, due to the limitation of monolithic commerce, as it often lacks the flexibility need to keep up with the rapid changes in the market, we saw many brands investing in microservices e-commerce approaches. But I think composable commerce has emerged as a response to achieve business needs for scalability, customization, and flexibility through its modular approach. And we can say composable commerce is a modern approach to building, managing digital commerce or storefront experiences, where each component of e-commerce could be the content management systems, payment gateways, shopping carts, the search functionality. With all these components can be developed and deployed and managed separately as individual components. So unlike the monolithic approach where everything is tightly coupled and all the components and all these functionalities are heavily dependent on each other, I think composable commerce allows businesses to select and integrate the best of breed components tailored to their specific needs, which also means that it allows brands to avoid being locked into a single vendor's ecosystems. So when we say that it is composable with its modularity, I think brands have the flexibility to choose different vendors for different functions. And this level of flexibility is a significant advantage over traditional monolithic systems. And I think, for a more detailed perspective on integrated composable components, I think it would be great to hear from Karie. She can obviously, take us through some of the trends and also the various approaches businesses can take through for this.
Yeah, thank you. So there's there's a lot there to unpack, right? So I think when we think about it, first of all, is composable commerce has now been around for a while, and people are starting to accept and adopt it. And as it gets more and more accepted and adopted, we're starting to see things come out of that, right? So an example of that is I don't think people necessarily thought about when you think about composable in any other scenario, composable in commerce is different because there's so many things that there are dependencies, right? Now the dependency is broken in where that information comes from, but I still have dependencies on other things. If I say I have a pricing engine and I have a catalog engine and I have a inventory engine, all of these different pieces have parts of the information that puts together the full story for commerce. So one of the things is in the trends is we're seeing the adoption, right? People are adopting. As adoption happens, there's a different level of understanding and there's a level of concern. So another trend we're really seeing in composable commerce is there's this high demand for interoperability, right? Like the beauty of the monolith is that it just worked, right? And a lot of companies are looking for that flexibility that composability gives them, but they also want it to just work. And so if you don't have a very large IT department, you need somebody to help you with that piece, right? So that's the second piece, is really that interoperability. And then I think the third thing we're seeing is this faster connection, right? Like, because in the concept of composability, where you're doing the plumbing, right, you're connecting everything together. Now the integration costs are higher because you're doing that full implementation. So it's really thinking about the adoption of composability, the interoperability between the systems, and then that faster connection to reduce the integration time to build these connections. So those are really the trends. I think I'm going to stop there and we can kind of dig into that a little bit. You can ask some more questions so that we don't just have this big run-on sentence here.
Yes, absolutely, Karie. And I think companies are the businesses are rather interested in the business outcomes and not in the underlying technology. So as you said, it's all about delivering a seamless e-commerce experience. And I think it's fascinating to see how businesses are approaching this, and that's changing the e-commerce landscape altogether. And I think as brands navigate these changes, it's crucial for them to stay agile and continuously adapt and embrace flexible approach and avoid rigid strategies which are likely to bring a failure. So I think the key is in successfully integrating these trends into their e-commerce frameworks.
It is, and that's where we really, where we really thought about it is, especially when you get into B2B e-commerce, right? Because there are so many things that happen. You have a catalog, right? But you may have entitlement to that catalog based on somebody in a certain area can't purchase because California has restrictions. So you have this concept of you have a catalog and you have entitlement, and then you have pricing, and then you have pricing agreements, and then you have quoting, right? So all of these things really are have inner knowledge needs, right? So we really think about, to us, all of these components are part of it, but the reality is the secret sauce is this interoperability, right? The ability to take that information and then serve it correctly. So we really think about that, and that's where we're really focused on this concept of integrated composable, is rather than forcing organizations to do the plumbing, to bring all of this together by a point to point, which is basically what you're doing when you're building the plumbing, right? Again, I come out of industrial control, so point to point wiring is a big thing, right? Now we're talking about it's really this shared knowledge and this information gets together. And that was the beauty of the monolith, right? Is that that interoperability was done for you. Now it was also how tightly coupled, right? So it's really getting into this concept of loosely coupled so that you can, because the challenge is the vendor lock-in, right? We're not looking for vendor lock-in that you have to buy everything from one organization. You want that flexibility of if the catalog capability that an organization offers isn't enough, I want to be able to have a PIM, but now I need to be able to take that catalog PIM and get it into the runtime of commerce, right? Like I need to be able to get it into the shared pricing contracts, all of these things. So you want the flexibility of no vendor lock-in, but you then also want the this interoperability to be solved for in such a way that you're not putting that pressure on you. Now, we really think about integrated composable commerce as solving for that, right? It is solving for that interoperability, that complex commerce, especially B2B, but obviously for B2C as well, where that information gets shared into this location and then distribute it, basically sent out. Think of it as almost a communication bus, right? It's a communication that you plug into. And the idea is that's where this information comes together, because the key in commerce is it does have to come together. It can't run, everything can't run fully independently, because if it is, you're missing this whole secret sauce of the commerce engine that is the basically the orchestrator that says this goes here and this goes here, and oh, I can only serve this catalog to this user because they're in this location, or they're not entitled to see these products, right? Like that's where the complexity comes in. And so our goal with integrated composable is to really solve for that, right? To say
Right.
maybe going to the microservice layer is not necessary in commerce because there is this need for this interoperability. Maybe it's more, we're looking at the kind of the packaged business capabilities where common capabilities are bundled, right? Catalog are common capabilities. You could break catalog down, but my question is, why would you want to, right? Inventory, you have receiving, you have management, and you have allocation of inventory. You could break those pieces apart, but my question is, why would you, right? Because what are you giving up when you go granular? You're giving up performance, right? So if you want to go granular, you can, but you have to think about what are we giving up, right? And so what I really think about in this whole composable model is the fact that you now have the opportunity to use capabilities, whatever they are, to drive your commerce business, not just your e-commerce business, right? Because the lens between physical and digital are blurring. We often see in B2B and B2C where inventory at a location is shared across multiple things, right? Multiple sales channels. We often see sales channels being vending machines or a kiosk, or it could be a physical location. It could be so many things. It could be a truck, right? In B2B, we see organizations delivering out of their truck, right? We have service vehicles that have inventory in their vehicle. All of these places are commerce locations, right? So we're really
Right.
thinking about it's the bringing together the physical and the digital to solve the business challenge, right? And that's what
Right.
our goal is in HCL Commerce, is to solve for those, right? To bring
Right.
together to get rid of the blurring, right? To manage non-physical products, labor, scheduling, all of those things that not all systems are designed to do. And so it's really focusing on the capabilities that are necessary for a business to function, whatever their business is, and then to be able to simplify this, bringing all of that together to be able to serve your customers correctly, right? Transparently, to give them the information they need, regardless of how they want to get it, right? And that includes your employees.
Right.
We're talking a lot about the employee experience, right? Employees are now using these digital tools as a big part of their jobs. And so, how do we make that experience better? How do we make them more efficient? I always think of
Right.
commerce as two things, right? It's driving revenue, because commerce is all about selling things. So it's
Yes.
driving revenue. Now you can break that down and say, okay, I want to drive revenue through new customer acquisition, or I want to drive revenue through selling more to my existing. But the bottom line is, it's still you're driving revenue in some way, shape, or form. And then it's efficiency, right? I need to reduce my cost. And cost reduction does not mean people reduction, right? It means efficiency. Give me the information I need to make business decisions quickly, right? And now, as we talk about bringing commerce together through these digital tools that enable physical and digital, your employees can now get information served to them, right? And we talk about layering in AI ML to help drive decisions and information to make decisions with the right data, right? We get inundated
Right.
with data, but how do we decipher that data that really focuses on actionable insights of what really matters? So all of these things really become part of the necessary solution for driving commerce in the future.
Absolutely, Karie. So yes, and I think it's an important, and I think the most important factor here is interoperability. I think and also like you mentioned, blurring those lines and delivering a seamless commerce experience altogether, right? Ganesh, you have any point on this?
Yeah, Carrie, I think that was exceptional detailed overview of the composable commerce, and I was really fascinated with all those points. So, Carrie, talking in terms of brands, so if a brand want to dive into composable commerce, so how can they figure out the best approach for their unique needs? So, in other words, if I speak, so when should a brand prioritize for the adoption of composable commerce?
A great question. And I think there isn't a one size fits all answer, right? there's lots of different ways you can take advantage of composable, which is one of the beautiful things of composable, right? I see brands that have very large technical departments, right? Um, that have the ability, and in the conversations we're having, we're talking a lot about what is a utility, right? Inventory is a utility. It doesn't differentiate me that I have the ability to manage inventory. So that's a utility. But then I have things that are unique. So maybe my pricing structure is unique, or maybe my services structure is unique. So what I'm seeing in composable commerce for customers is that if I am a very large organization, I may want to build those things that are unique to my business, right? Those things that really drive my differentiation. But then I want to buy those things that are utilitarian, right? So to me, the ability to buy inventory, receiving, management, allocation tools, because inventory is just a necessary evil, right? I need to manage my inventory. But then I also want to be able to manage those non-physical things. So for customers, like, what do I want to build? Do I want to build versus do I want to buy? So I want to buy individual capabilities to fill in what I'm not going to build. That's one approach where composable is a really great solution, right? And we see that a lot with very large organizations or very, very digitally mature organizations. The second approach is there's lots of organizations that really just want it to work, right? And so then the question is integrated composable commerce where all the interoperability is solved for you. You get the beauty and advantages of composable without the complexities of composable. You get the flexibility of, I say, once you've gone integrated composable, you don't ever need to re-platform again, because if something doesn't meet your needs, you can replace that one element without replacing your entire ecosystem, right? So that's the beauty of composable, and that's also the beauty of our integrated composable commerce model is you get the best of both worlds. You get the flexibility and you get the interoperability, which is the biggest challenge with composability. So to me, organizations making that decision, it's where are you on your journey? What can you consume, right? What does your organization want? Do they want the full solution? They want it to just work, but they want that flexibility because everybody wants to move at the speed of business today, right? If we've learned anything over the last several years is that we need to be able to move at the speed of business. And if something changes, we need the flexibility to change and adapt quickly. We can't say it's going to take us 6 months to adapt to that market change. So for organizations that are really looking at a solution, it's really what is the right time? This isn't just technology, right? I know we talk a lot about the technology. To me, the technology is just the enabler, but the decision that you make in which technology to invest in is going to be the future of make or break, right? Because that solution needs to be able to give you what you need as a business. And it's interesting because I look at checklists all the time. We see a lot of RFPs, right? Or requests for proposals. And there's just a check mark. Can you do quoting? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. That's not the secret sauce. And those are not the right questions, right? Those are feature function, but that's what the business is interested. To me, pull back the onion and say, how do you deliver these things? Not do you deliver them, but how do you deliver them? And to me, those are the things that become very, very important when organizations are making a technology decision, because your technology is your enabler. And you're going to find that a lot of these companies offer stuff, but when you peel back the onion, they do not offer them to the extent or to the level that you need. And then they don't support the flexibility to enable that for your business. And that's really an important factor when you're having conversations with technology partners.
Absolutely, Karie. Yeah. And
I
also,
think
like you
Karie,
just mentioned, yeah. Go ahead, Ganesh.
I
Yes.
think, yeah, I think Karie, that was very insightful, especially for the brands who are looking to move towards composable commerce. So I think it's time when we should talk about some important concept of composable commerce. So to build upon what you just shared, so we would like to speak like concepts about like interoperability, agility, and innovation. So I know you have already covered interoperability, but I would like to add few points like
Yeah.
in composable commerce, I think interoperability ensures that various systems and components within an e-commerce systems can work together smoothly. This concept is crucial in setup where different best of breeds like content management system, it can be a CRM, it can be a payment processor that are integrated to create a customized solution. So I think interoperability ensures that these diverse components can share data and functions as a unified whole, despite being from different vendors or based on different technologies. So a key aspect of interoperability from my side would like it is ensure that smooth exchange of data between different systems. For example, as you mentioned earlier, that a product catalog from product information management needs to easily accessible to CMS that powers the online storefront, as we know. So if the systems are interoperable, that data transfer can become inefficient, or this data can be prone to errors. So leading to an inconsistency in the information presented to customers. So finally, my last word for interoperability would be like interoperability supports the flexibility and scalability that are central to composable commerce. So when your systems are interoperable, business can easily add, replace, or upgrade different components without disrupting the overall architecture. So by doing this, I think this reduces complexities and cost while allowing business to adapt their e-commerce systems to new technologies or changing business needs over time. I think that was from my side for the interoperability. So, Carrie, as we know that SCL is recognized as leader in commerce sector, so it would be valuable to hear your perspective about why interoperability has gained so much importance in composable commerce.
Yeah, because I think if you're buying into the concept of microservices, right, and you're buying, so here's an example, right? We've talked to a lot of customers over the last several years about microservices and composability. And there's companies that have 63 vendors, right? They're buying components from 63 different vendors. Each of those vendors, that all has to be wired together, right? It has to be connected. So that's what we're talking about interoperability. But when you think about commerce, so in some solutions, interoperability is just pretty simple, right? It's just a simple exchange of information. In commerce, there's more going on there, right? As I mentioned, if you have pricing over here and you have contracts over here and you have catalog over here and you have entitlement over here, all of those things have shared knowledge information, inventory, right? My catalog doesn't necessarily maintain my inventory maintains my inventory. So if I'm going to say I have something, I've got to go to inventory to say, here's what I have, right? So when we talk about the interoperability in commerce, that's the hard stuff. It's the events. Like I sell something, I have to trigger on my storefront, I have to trigger inventory. If I sell something in my store that impacts my storefront, I need to know the POS, the point of sale system needs to notify inventory that needs to notify the storefront, right? Like there is a multi-chain of events of things that happen in e-commerce and in commerce that make this complicated, right? So if an event changes, you have to send a communication. If there's a database change, you have to send a communication. If I need to check a price and a contract, I need to send both of those things out, bring it together to serve up the right information to the right customer at the right moment in time. And I think those are the things that people have to really understand about composable commerce is that commerce is not easy, right? Commerce is more complicated than anything. And when you used to just talk about e-commerce, right? Like e-commerce was independent of what I was doing physically. Um, Now that's changing too. That needs to come together because commerce is commerce. And I think that's part of the challenge that we're dealing with is that not everybody is thinking through the overall impact. And the way we're thinking about it is, I don't care what a sales channel is. It could be a physical sales channel in a store, it could be a warehouse in B2B, right? It could be a truck, it could be a kiosk, it could be a vending machine. All of those things are a means to sell that need to be communicated, right? If I sell something out of a vending machine, if that vending machine doesn't notify the main system that something has been sold, how does anybody know that they may be out of something in that vending machine? Like all of these things, or this is a hot seller and these aren't moving within a vending machine. So what we're really thinking about is it's commerce in its entirety, and we need to solve for digital physical, and all of these in betweens, the services, service products, non-physical products like labor hours, like all of these things need to be solved for in the solutions for the future, because this is the direction that business is going. We can no longer say it's e-commerce and then it's my normal sales. Everything we do is intertwined, and the solutions that you buy or build need to solve for both of those things for every means that you want to sell today and in the future. That's the things that I really want to stress to customers. Don't just think about where you are, you also have to think about where are we going in 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, because everything we're solving for needs to be there in that future as well. We can't just say, okay, I'm going to replatform my e-commerce every 2 to 3 years, because now you're talking about your entire business. That would be like, think about it. That would be like, okay, I'm going to replace my ERP every 2 to 3 years. I think anybody who's done an ERP implementation is going to say that is not going to happen, right? Like that is not an easy feat. And commerce is equally important, right? So the flexibility to service your customers the way they need to is really what we're solving for now as we move forward.
Thank you, Karie. I think that answers my questions. So, Shruti, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I would, love to hear from Karie on HCL's approach on the HCL Commerce Cloud. If we have time, I am not sure, but it would be great to hear from Karie on that as well.
Yeah, we can touch on it quickly. So HCL
Yeah.
Commerce is our product, right? And we think about it as cloud is, it's kind of your cloud, right? We still service on-prem solutions. We have SaaS solutions. So we really think about that. But where we're really going is really building out this composable commerce. And again, I emphasize commerce, not just e-commerce, right? We have powered some of the largest enterprise organizations in the market for a very long time with our e-commerce solution. But we're really looking at what is business of the future, right? It's not just the technology, it's really enabling the business user. I talked a lot about the employee experience, right? Build tooling that makes the person delighted to work in your solution to do their job. Give them the data they need to make better decisions. Don't make them move around. So our solution is very, very focused on employee experience. How do we make the experience and delight the employee? How do we satisfy the complexities of commerce, right? Not just e-commerce, but this bridging of physical and digital. So we're really looking at our capabilities, as I mentioned, being PBCs, packaged business capabilities, and you can buy them individually or you can buy them as part of that integrated composable commerce solution where it just works, right? We handle all of the interoperability, but you have the flexibility of saying you don't want to use our inventory solution, you can use your inventory solution, right? You can plug that in and connect it. We're also really going down this path of connectors, right? Like we see a lot of payment gateways, tax gateways, all of these external best-in-class solutions. They take a lot of extra time to integrate. So we're really looking at this concept of plugins. We've developed a really, really cool plugin wizard. We call it a plugin framework to really manage the connectors. And so we're really looking at solving these business challenges that we talked about, right? The interoperability, the integration, right? Reducing integration costs, faster time to market, making it delightful to work in. So our solution is really focused on all of those things and keeping the ability to manage complex business, but really solve for that for mid-market and up, right? So really focusing on a larger market share where we can support organizations, give them access to our solution where maybe they didn't have access in the past. So our goal is really to build a solution that solves for today, tomorrow, and in the future, that just works or gives the flexibility that organizations are looking for with composable, including composability being headless, right? Some organizations just want it to work and they want a head. We can do that too, right? So we're really focused on how do we solve all of these challenges and give people the best possible solution that's going to really work and drive their business today, tomorrow, and in the future.
Thanks for answering that, Karie. That was really insightful, and I think the core focus here is on flexibility, and I think that's going to drive more personalized and relevant interactions in terms of customer experience as well, and also help the brands gain a competitive edge in the market. Thanks for answering that, Karie.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Karie. Thank you, Shruti. Thank you, Ganesh, for this insightful session. I think we are already over time at this point, so I don't think we have any time left for questions. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today, spending time with us. We do look forward to seeing you again in one of our next sessions. And please feel free to reach out to us in case you have any questions. And yeah, thank you again.
Thank you, Swapnil.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary, for time today.